So today we're leaving the appointment at U of M. And it was pretty much more of the same.
We're the Robinson family, and this is our story. We encountered a major storm that only God's hand could pull us through. We're sharing with the world in hopes that it will increase your faith. We asked Mikea Latia, an amazing journalist, to come help us tell our story. We hope that it blesses you.
Well, welcome everyone. I am Mikea Latia, and today's conversation promises to not only touch your heart, but increase your faith while doing so. Michael and Taylor Robinson, imagine the unexpected news of hearing during your pregnancy that your child is experiencing major fetal abnormalities.
The lady went out and came back in and she said, something is wrong with your baby. And I remember in that moment, I was like, it kind of struck me, and I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Mm-hmm. Because what they're telling us is, if he comes out, he's not actually going to function at all.
I wrote down every possible scenario, all the way from me having to deliver a dead baby to us having to install a wheelchair ramp.
Where does your faith go?
I remember in that moment, I was like, you know what? I think God is going to do something here.
One book called Christ the Healer, which is powerful. That actually changed our whole mindset about healing.
Talk to me about what the work to look like after the faith has already been stirred up.
So we got a second opinion. The most terrible meeting I think either one of us has ever sat through on the terrible life that our son is going to live, should we decide to let him live. But don't worry, there's a solution around, ending his life peacefully and taking him out of you in pieces. I mean, it was very intense.
So walk me through the beginning with your first ultrasound. What was that experience like during pregnancy?
Yeah, so the first ultrasound actually is I know you don't have babies yet, but it's you come in and they just say, is there a baby in there? Yes, we're excited, it's our second child. All of that was pretty normal, I would say. I mean, I had some challenges, I feel like, emotionally. During that first trimester, I was really sick. Dad had to kind of pick up a lot of slack with the baby we already had, but for the most part, it was pretty regular. I decided to switch healthcare providers, though, after my first trimester because we wanted to deliver closer to our house.
Okay.
Part of that, intake at this new place was getting ultrasound. They saw some things that they thought were kind of funny or not necessarily looking right, but they didn't know what was going on, so they had us go down to the main hospital here in Fort Maine. We go downtown, and they did an ultrasound. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but they do the ultrasound. They're like, everything pretty much looks good. Come back in a few weeks, and we're just going to confirm that it's good, but everything pretty much looks fine. By that point, we knew we were having a boy. We were really excited, so we scheduled that follow-up ultrasound. I told Michael to stay home. I'm like, my mom can come. Our first baby was during COVID, so she didn't get to do any ultrasound, so my mom comes. And what was supposed to be a 45-minute scan ended up taking almost 2 hours.
Wow.
They got quiet in the room and started kind of murmuring. The person I was doing the ultrasound left, brought in a senior tech. They're having me move all types of way, stopped speaking completely.
Okay.
And I remember the lady went out and came back in and she said, something's wrong with your baby. So I'm leaving the maternal fetal medicine appointment, my anatomy scan for 20 weeks, and basically they said that there's something from their perspective that's wrong with the baby's brain, basically saying that they believe that it's either a mass or bleeding on the brain, and they believe that it's bleeding on the brain, and that pretty much means that the baby will have physical and developmental challenges, issues, abnormalities, which when they see bleeding, per the ladies, tubes, wires, wheelchairs, etc. And so I remember that moment, I was like, it kind of struck me, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Mm-hmm. My husband's not there. I'm with my mom. She's a believer. We know we're a family of believers. But yeah, it was almost cold water to the face. So I, came home. I don't know if you want to jump in, but it was wild.
Yeah, it was wild. Especially, it was different from the first pregnancy.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So it was first pregnancy was everything was passing with flying colors, right? Everything. hey, she's doing good, meeting every milestone, and you know, everything's fine. So having this report, it was different, and I actually didn't believe it, honestly. Like when I first heard it, I was like, they had somebody else's case, like it can't be, because we never had something as serious as this happen. Like anything, like not even medical, like anything to this magnitude in our life. So I'm like, no, it can't be. So we're like, okay, we're gonna schedule follow-ups with specialists and all that. But actually, there was a whole period of time we actually had to grapple with the news and see if it was actually real. Like we didn't believe the doctors, honestly, first. So yeah, it was a whole.
So okay, let's a few points here, right? So you first start receiving this news. You're in the middle of like silence. What's going through your mind? They're not telling you anything.
Ooh. Okay, so I knew something was, you just can tell in your gut. As I'm having a conversation with the lady, I'm asking about her kids. We're talking, just
you're just so butterflies and just giddy.
And she just goes silent. She goes silent, and I'm like, oh no, what are they doing? And there was a part of me that wanted to. There were several points in the pregnancy where I just wanted to like literally just get up and run out of the room. Like that was the emotions. Like I just wanted to like get up and leave. Like my trauma response, whatever you want to call it, like I need to get up and just leave, and I couldn't because I'm laying there. But I just remember just really wanting very desperately to just be done with the situation. Like I just wanted to be done. I'm like, no, I need to just get out of here as fast as I possibly can. But I couldn't, and so that was pretty much what I was feeling. It was just really like,
get
me out of here. So I believe that the Lord said to me that this situation, this abnormal ultrasound was so that the glory of the Lord could be revealed. And I don't know what that means. I don't know. I feel like I'm in a weird spot. I'm driving home now to talk to Michael. Because Michael obviously wasn't with me. I FaceTimed him so that he could hear in live time what the doctors were saying. And I just remember the lady brought in the senior most maternal fetal medicine doctor, and she's like, when we see this, this is what your outcome is. So pretty much prepare for a stillbirth. But you have, what was it at the point, like 2 or 3 weeks to make your decision based on Michigan law.
Wow.
But come back on Friday so we can have a meeting to discuss your options. So that was like I think that was like a Tuesday or something. But yeah, we had to come back on Friday, which obviously we were together for that one. So we had to come back on Friday to discuss our options.
And just piggyback off of that too is, like you said, immediately after giving us this diagnosis, when they started the training, you have 3 weeks to make a decision. So we're trying to come to grips with this news. You're already telling me I need to let him go, basically.
And I'm not hearing anything right now.
Okay, so now being in a space like that, right? You're still processing. You don't know to go left, to go right, and we're believers. What happens next, even prior to Friday? Because you're like you said, you're trying to get grips of what was just being told to you. Where did your faith go?
Yeah, I remember in that moment, I was like, you know what? I think God is going to do something here. I believe that whatever He says, we're going to go with. And I'm not hearing anything right now. But this feels like the fight of my life. Even though my emotions weren't there at all, I feel like my spirit was like, no, God is going to do something with this.
Yeah.
And so I tried it, at least with my actions, I tried to like walk that out. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so from my side, I think it was a little different. We were kind of separate at first, just due to, this uncharted territory, I would say. So we never been there before.
100%.
Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, obviously we read the Bible, we understand, what he says about healing.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you're in the situation, then you can just kind of forget a lot of things too, and you don't really have the strong faith in that moment. So my mind, initially, I'm like, okay, well, he gives us doctors for a reason, right? God gives us medical profession, people in the medical profession in order to tell us what we should do, right? So if they're saying this, is it our job as parents to make the best logical decision? Or do we say, okay, well, we forget what you're saying, and I know what God said you should do? So in my head, I was like battling between, okay, is his will actually to heal him? Or is his will for us to make a logical decision as parents responsible for this child? Because what they're telling us is if he comes out, he's not actually going to function at all. They're saying that he's struggling now in the womb.
Jesus, I remember that.
He's in pain, right? So you don't want your child to be in pain in the womb, even though he's not born yet. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, is my responsibility to actually relieve him of his pain? Or is it for him to get healed, right? So it was kind of a battle in the mind, but
Yeah.
we ultimately got to the point though. I remember we left the doctor's appointment, and we were talking in the parking lot, and it the Spirit just hit me, and he's like, "You guys are praise and worship leaders, right? She's a praise and worship leader. I've been playing piano for church for 20-something years, right? You lead worship on Sunday every week for the last 15 to 20 years. You don't do this for no reason, right?
Yeah.
You sing about healers. You sing about how you can bring you through situations. Like if you don't actually walk it out in this moment, then you don't need to sing again, basically. So at that moment, we were like, okay, well, this is who we are. You gotta walk it out.
Come
Or
on.
stop singing about it. And
stop
he did.
singing.
We actually so he said that. He was like, we either need to stop, we need to step down. That's it. If we don't believe he's Waymaker, turn off the song. Stop believing, stop, or believe him to be the Waymaker.
So so that was the decision.
That was so we actually consulted pastors, right? And we got wise counsel as well, but that was really confirming what we had already talked about.
Because we had to make the decision, it was ours to make. It wasn't anybody else's, including the doctors, but including pastors as well. It was ours.
Yeah, and even when we were reaching out to as well to some, it wasn't their answer wasn't this is what you should do, right? They would give counsel and information, but it's still up to us, to make that decision. And we had to get it firm within ourselves, like, this is a rhema coming from God. Okay, this is what you need to do in this situation. So until we got that actual confirmation, we were just getting information. But that was the moment we were like, okay, well, let's just do this.
Before you received that confirmation, how did you release control? Because I totally understand what you're saying about, okay, God's will can be this or God's will can be that. And you're in the middle of wanting to make the perfect decision.
Yeah.
How do you release control in that moment of saying, whatever your will is, I'm going to just trust that this is this decision that you want me to make?
Man, it was, I don't know if it was a specific moment. It was really
serious.
it was a series of things. We had to definitely build our faith along the way in order to get to a point of release. Because first it was, it was the word, right? And then, we got the unction that's what we need to do. And then, we were stumbling out the gates, obviously. The next day it's like, are you sure?
But what
I heard that, but I don't know if I actually heard it clearly, so we had to build our faith to a point where it was a solid foundation for sure.
Wow.
I would say I remember in the beginning for me, I was just tormented in my mind with just what if this, what if this, what if this, what if this. And I remember Michael telling me to pray. No, what is it? He asked me something like has the Lord given you anything, or has what are you, something along those lines. And I had a Bible verse that the Lord had taken me to. But no, this is what you told me. Michael told me, he said, maybe you should write down, to get it out. And maybe you need to just get out all the things that you're worried about. Maybe you just need to write it all down, because he knows that's kind of one of the ways that I process. So he was like, maybe just write it all down. And so I remember I wrote down every possible scenario, because that's kind of how my mind works. So all the way from, me having to deliver a dead baby to us having to install a wheelchair ramp, you know, in this house to go up the stairs because our child won't be able to hold his neck up and or function and or swallow by himself, which is what the doctors are saying. Like every single scenario, I kind of wrote down, and the Lord took me to Daniel, I think it's 3, I don't know if it starts at 17 or 15, but it's basically the 3 Hebrew boys.
Yeah.
And they're about to get, you know, thrown into the fire, and the king's like, hey, like, you need to bow. Don't you know what I can do to you? And they said, you know, we believe our God can deliver us. We believe our God will deliver us.
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't deliver us, we're not about to bow to you. We believe that the Lord can heal our child.
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't, like, I'm not going to bow to the fear of the situation. And so basically, like, the Lord walked me through each scenario, and I got peace with each scenario. Like, if I have to deliver a child that has gone on to be with the Lord, you know, at 20, 30, 40 weeks, right? God, you're going to be with me. If we have to, like I said, install wheelchair ramps, if we're feeding with syringes, and granted, I haven't walked that out, right? So I'm not saying I've been there, but in my spirit and in my mind, as I was praying, like, the Lord walked me through, like, irrespective, because at that point I wasn't fully in faith. We didn't know. We got to a completely different place in our faith as this journey went on. But at that point, we didn't know what his will was, right? We're like, I don't know. Is it, do you send it? Is this a learning? Is this what? Did we sin? Like, we didn't know at that point. And so it was really getting to where it was like, in that moment, it was like, irrespective of what happens, you're going to be with us and it's going to be okay.
Amen. And that right there, that's the process. It starts with our faith, and now you both are doing the work. God, I don't know the outcome. I don't know the final destination, but I'm going to release control through my faith and just do the work. I'm not going to stay stagnant here and tormented, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the work. And if we follow those steps in every situation, everything is different, right? But as believers, sometimes you're in the midst of something. All right, I know you're going to work it out. You always do. You come through every time. There's never a time you haven't. But, like, having a process of, like, to follow, I think is just so important. And so now the work. Talk to me about what the work to look like after the faith has already been stirred up.
Yeah, so after that, we reached out to, like, our pastoral counsel, we used to say. So that's something that Taylor mentioned too, as well, is that, you know,
we left the appointment at U of M. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we got a second opinion.
Okay.
So we had that terrible meeting. Like,
Right, Friday.
We go into Friday. We have this, like, the most terrible meeting I think either one of us has ever sat through. 10-page PowerPoint on the terrible life that our son is going to live, should we decide to let him live. But don't worry, there's a solution around, you know, ending his life peacefully, and taking him out of you in pieces. I mean, it was very intense. We decided to get a second opinion at U of M. We go to U of M, and they pretty much confirmed the identical. It's actually a little bit worse, actually, from that second opinion. And so, yeah, driving back from that second opinion, I remember we kind of just decided, like, hey, like, we need some wise counsel here. The Bible says in the multitude of counselors there's safety, right? Like, you didn't give us this counsel for, like, nothing. We have people that love us. You know, we have a pastor. We have, you know, spiritual leaders in our lives that care about us. Like, let's tap into that.
So we reached out to Pastor Andre Butler, which is our current pastor, and he recommended two things. He recommended one book called Christ the Healer, which is powerful. That actually changed our whole mindset about healing. And what we were talking about before, is his will actually to heal? That specifically addresses what the will is for healing specifically. So that was an answered prayer. And then he also had recommended that there's a rhema word, right? So you can, obviously you want to read the word, you know, study the word and get these scriptures under you, but there's one specifically that's going to come as a rhema, and you need to hold on to that. That's basically what he's saying is the situation in this moment. So between those two things, he recommended, really kind of guided us through the process. But the Christ the Healer book was very powerful. The whole concept around it is, you know, is God's will healing? And it basically answers the question, yes, right? So it all comes back to the atonement, which is basically the crucifixion and the cross, right? So basically the concept is there's healing. He answered healing, and he promised salvation in the same act, right? So, through dying on the cross, he said, okay, we're going to be saved, but then also by his stripes, you're healed, right? So essentially, if you believe that you're saved, then you need to believe that we're also healed as well. It's the same.
Sin and iniquities, which really translates as diseases.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I had a couple. So it's Isaiah 53:5, it says, he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities, the chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed, right? So basically, with his stripes you are healed. That's the promise, right? So you can't believe that you're saved, but then not believe that you'll be healed, right? So you really have to be strong in that, and then don't have doubt. That was another thing, right? You can't. He's not going to operate in a space where your doubt, any bit of doubt, right? So you have to have full faith that this is actually going to take place, right? Full faith in his word and his promise that was promised on the cross. So.
But not needing, I'll just add on to that, like, there's a story of the man where Jesus asked him, do you believe?
Right.
He said, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief.
Yes, he did.
And so Michael got some really good nuggets from the Lord as we were even walking through, okay, Lord, like, we want to believe. Like, we desire to believe. Like, help my unbelief. Like, how do I get to this point of belief? Like, I remember, what were you binge watching? Which Michael does not watch TV. Like, he is not a TV guy at all. But he was like, on this DIY. I'll let you talk about it. But.
Yeah. So there's a documentary from Deion Sanders. They call him Prime Time. I think the documentary is called Prime, if I'm not mistaken, but it's on Amazon Prime too. And he got to a point where he was talking to his team a day before the next game, and he was asking them, like, why do you believe? Like, why do you believe that we're going to win tomorrow? Why do you believe that we're going to perform well? And, everybody was going around and saying, I'm stronger, I'm faster, the generic stuff. But then one person says, because we put the work in, all right? And he was like, yes, exactly. That's the reason why you believe. The only reason why you can believe that you win tomorrow is because something happened already. Wow. You did something. So at that moment, it was like, again, God spoke to me in that moment. I had to stop watching it. He was telling me in that moment, for our situation is, because I've already died on the cross in the past, that's why you can believe for the future, right? So
because he already put the work in.
Because he already put the work in. So that's already been done.
He's already overcome the world.
Right. So if that hadn't been done, you can hope that something happens, but you can't really believe through faith, because that's the difference. Hope is, hoping for something that, that might not have, but through belief, because he actually already died on the cross, he already made the promise like we talked about before, then you can actually believe on that. So in that, I had like a vision that he was showing me is, okay, well, this is the cross, this is the act that I did, this is the promise over here, and this is your son's healing on the right side, right? So when you're praying, basically don't focus on your son's healing. You need to literally like turn left, like focus on me and your belief on the cross. Like your belief is a rearward facing action as opposed to a forward facing action. Right, so don't pray like, I believe that he's going to be healed. I believe that, no, I believe in the cross. I believe that you died on the cross for our healing. I believe that you took these stripes for our healing. And he said, I'm going to worry about all that. Just like you saying, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things be added. Like, you focus on seeking this. And he said, I got that covered. Like, don't even worry about that. You pray for what's already done on the cross. You just believe in me, and then I'll take care of the rest.
That's deep.
And it takes the pressure off, I think, for me, like him, when he sat me down and explained that to me. Because, being somebody that, like, strives for perfection or really struggles with, like, what did I do wrong? What can I do to fix it? How can I make it right? It took the pressure off. And it's just like, well, Lord, help me to just focus on you. Help me to just build my faith in that what you did was sufficient. Calvary was sufficient. The cross is sufficient. Like, I think that direction that came, it just helped give us, I think, some legs to stand on.
Yeah, because it's really like, what can you do in this situation, right? We can't heal him with our own hands. We can't, as much money as you have, you can't buy his healing or anything. But the one thing you can do is believe. That's what I'm asking you to do is believe. So how can I believe at 1,000%. If that's my job, I'm just focused on belief, and then you'll take care of it.
Wow. And you know what's so special too, though? You said 1,000%. He even says the size of a mustard seed.
Yeah.
That is so small.
Yeah.
Like, just give me that much, and that is sufficient enough for me and my kingdom. Like, y'all just broke it down. That was so powerful. I love that, because initially, and I think any person would just focus on the healing of your child. That's what I'm here for, God. Like, this is what I need you to do. Instead, you got a different perspective, like, or the actual perspective. No, focus on me, because that's literally what I instructed you to do in my word. My kingdom, me. I have everything else. He even says in Matthew, he said, pick up my yoke. It's easy to board. That's all I ask you to carry. You don't have to carry anything else. You know, yeah, you physically are carrying the baby. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
But pick up my yoke, and I'll make that lighter. That's so, wow.
Yeah.
That's the work. That's a full-time job right there. That's work.
It actually is. Yes.
Wow. So you're going through this journey now, right? The faith, the work, and then you go back to the doctors. What happens next?
We get to the MRI at U of M, and I remember it was just like really small. I never had an MRI before that I remember, so I'm in this like, I don't like small spaces. I'm in this very small space. And obviously I'm a worship leader, so songs are like, a thing for me. And I remember I'm in this very, very small little tunnel thing. I can feel the baby in there kicking around, living his best life. And I remember I just sang, it's a song called Covenant Keeping God. And the song just says, you'll never leave me. You said that you won't forsake me. You're right beside me. And that is all that matters. You are a covenant keeping God. You are a covenant keeping God. And I just said that over and over and over again for the 45 minutes that the ultrasound was going on for. And so I remember getting out, and we left, and we're driving home and just kind of waiting to see what the news was going to be. And the doctor calls, and she's like, well, it was like 6 p.m. and she calls me and she's like, well, I'm just calling you. I know it's late, but I wanted to let you know that we have to change your diagnosis. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, it's not what we thought. It's this new thing. So it's not a brain. Initially, what they diagnosed us with was a grade 4 brain hemorrhage. So the most amount of bleeding. Some hospitals have a 3 out of 3 system. Some have a 4 out of 4. So it says 3 some places, 4 other. But it's the most significant amount of bleeding possible. There's shifting at the midline. Like there's no hope here. So what she said on the phone was, she's like, we thought it was a bleed, but it's not a bleed.
Wow.
I'm like, well, you guys said it was a bleed twice, but all right. She's like, it's not a bleed. It's a migration disorder. So it's not that there is bleeding on the brain. The brain just never developed properly to begin with. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, why are you changing the diagnosis? And she's like, well, that's because we couldn't find any blood on the ultrasound. I said, excuse me? She's like, we couldn't find any blood on the ultrasound. And I said, oh, okay. I said, thank you. I said, well, initially you said that we need to prepare for a stillbirth. Like he could bleed out. And she's like, well, no, all his organs look really good. He's probably going to live a long time. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, but with all of these severe challenges and this and this and this and that. So like by no means, she was still very much doom and gloom. But what I heard in that conversation was progress.
Hope.
Right. I'm looking at the what is it, like Elijah told the prophet to look. He said, I see a cloud. It's the size of a fist. It's like, this is my fist-sized cloud. Like, rain is coming. Like, that was the progress I think we needed to kind of, like, boost our faith. Well, for me, at least, I was like, oh, okay, Lord, you're moving. You're going to continue to move. Like, if we got here, we're going to get to wherever you promised. And initially, like, from the very beginning, when I prayed about it, every time I prayed about it, the Lord said, your son is fine. Like, every time I prayed about it. And I would go back, like, hey, I think I might have missed it, Lord. I'm just here again. See, he said I said what I said. And that was all he ever gave me about it. Wow. And so, yeah, we get to the MRI. They don't see any blood. They're like, at this point, we're just going to closely monitor you. And when he's born, we're going to have to do tests from basically A to Z to see just how bad it is. But it's going to probably still be very, very bad. But at that point, yeah, I was in a different place. We were in a different place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, me too. I feel like in that moment it was, it's like if you're in a fight right? And you punch and they stumble a little bit. I feel like the devil just stumbled a little bit there. It was like, oh, I got you. Now I'm about to go down, bitch.
Right, the Rocky music at that point.
In the background, in the back.
Like, oh, this fight is turning. Get a good direction.
You see blood. You bleeding right now.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was just like took it to a different level. It's like, okay, it's game time for real.
Yeah.
So yeah, just amped this up.
That's exciting. Yeah, and then it's that reward for your obedience.
Yeah, it was just. And not to say to his point, like then we had ultrasounds every 4 weeks after that, and I'm like at that point, so you're like da da da, like, and then you go to ultrasound and they're like, this looks the same, and you say, and then you go back and it's like it looks the same. So it was still a journey from that point, but I think that was kind of enough of a, like we knew at that point, and the Lord continued to do things, but that was kind of, I would say, a turning point, if you will, in terms of like at least like our natural evidence that God was doing something.
No, that's a good picture. Paint that, because I'm already at the finish line with you. Like, oh, it was a few more miles.
Yeah, we went up and down, and like I said, when it was game time, we still put in a lot of work in terms of prayer and our faith. And 2 other things that he told us to do too was really stand on the word. What was the other one that we did?
Standing on the word was big though. Like
standing on the word, and then testimonies.
Yeah.
We
should
testimonies,
talk about
right?
that.
So the stand on the word part, we had scriptures posted like all around our house. So in our bathroom, you go to the bathroom, you're gonna be faced with scripture. Refrigerator. Once you come to the front door, and garage door. Anywhere where you stand
bathroom,
for more
every
than 2
bathroom
seconds.
mirror. Yes, if you standing, you're about to get this faith.
This word.
Yes.
And that's what really, like we said, when the belief, like our job was to believe, that really kept our belief at a certain level. But still, like I said, we had ups and downs, and then the testimony part, I was looking specifically for testimonies like this to anchor on. And there was one day where I just got frustrated because I was looking on YouTube, I was looking online, trying to find testimonies like to a certain, let's say, magnitude where there's no medicine involved, right? Obviously, if you have a headache, you can pray for your headache. I'm looking for something like cancer, no chemo, he's taking you from here to here to show like evidence that he's really working in this form and fashion right now. So it was hard to find, actually. I searched a lot, couldn't find it. So that's where kind of this came from. It was like, we should have something where we can, have that to hold on to, where people, can strengthen their faith and whatnot, because we really needed in that moment. So there was one day specifically where, we were talking, and I was visibly showing my frustration, couldn't find anything. And then the next day, like literally the next day, within 12 to 14 hours, one of our friends came over, and then she just felt led to share a testimony that I believe was her aunt.
Her aunt was complete. She had stage 4 cancer throughout her entire body. And I think they went to, was it that they went to do surgery? Did they open her up for surgery, I think? I think they either opened her up to actually do the surgery, or they did the preliminary scan just before they were going to operate to take out, stage 4. We know people that have transitioned due to stage 4. That's very serious. Couldn't find any cancer at all.
Wow.
To the point where I think the doctor had to call like 7 other doctors and like different, like, I need you to look at this because I'm like, and it was just a hands down miracle, but that was a miracle. Come on. But the other miracle was that like God loved us so much that he sent that story immediately, literally to our doorstep. Like the morning after he's sitting there frustrated about it.
Wow.
So that's what he was just telling us, like, confirmed again, right? This is what my will is for this.
Come on, he's an on-time God.
He is.
Oh my goodness.
We had a few of those type of situations where we heard like undeniable testimonies, and we were able to hold on to them. And it was a game changer. So it was testimonies, and it was the word. So we had the word, we had the testimonies, and that was really how we walked through. We had community as well. Like not a big community. We really didn't talk to everybody.
Yeah, that was a big thing, and actually we started early with that. Just understanding that we talk about belief. That's our job, right? There are some people that may be in a circle that don't have the same belief, even though they could be saved, but still don't have they're not at the level that can be in the same belief with you, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's a big thing to believe for.
Yeah, so you don't want that kind of deterring you and decreasing your faith because you're listening to them, people that you love, that's in your inner circle. And we did have conversations with some people, told a few people, and they didn't specifically outright come and say like, hey, this is what you should do. But they made it very well known that they were on the other side of the fence in terms of our decision. All right, so we really had to keep a close circle just for that reason. Like, we can't let our belief get to a certain level, right? So.
Yeah.
Our effort is in believing. So like I didn't have a baby shower, and I was frustrated because it's like I'm not having a baby shower. I know God is gonna like, but I canceled the big elaborate shower that I had planned. I'm like, oh, we're out of COVID. We're having a Wakanda theme.
Right.
We're having all these plans. But in talking about it, we were like, no, like we're gonna just keep this. We're gonna keep this close. And my cousin actually surprised me with she actually flew in. She flew in, like one of my best friends doesn't live in the state, but she actually surprised. It was only 5 of them. There's a horrible picture of me ugly crying in the lobby of this like Birmingham hotel where she just had a brunch for me, but just all of the women that had basically on my end of things just prayed me through my pregnancy. Like she just had them come together to just speak life and to just acknowledge for me and for Michael, like, you know, what they saw, the fruit they saw in this season for us. And it was like so special. It was one of those moments. That was actually the Super Bowl weekend, I would say, that was when we had the prayer and all of that. But yeah, it was really special. But yeah, we kept it close. Mm-hmm. We did keep it close.
Important.
And
it's so important.
It helped. It did help.
Yeah. So. I want to say this too, like just hearing your story and thinking back, like we obviously go to the same church, but you two carried that so well.
God's grace.
I would have never imagined, like the way that you two showed up every Sunday, would have never imagined what you're going through.
God had graced us.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, it was, you definitely graced us, and it was, I would say it's intentional too. Like when he talks about fasting, right? Mm-hmm. When you fast, you shouldn't make it seem like, you know, I'm so hungry.
Going through it.
Yeah, because that's kind of your reward in a certain instance. Okay, if you're going through a situation, obviously you can go to everybody and say, oh, we're going through this, you know, because somebody, you know, give me a hug and support. Now, at a certain point, you do need that, but it can become your reward too as well. So that was what he was telling us too, is like go through like regular. You don't need to show this like you're in dire situations. Obviously reach out to your support, your counsel, but yeah, like I got it. Just go through it. I'm gonna take care of it.
Amen.
Yeah.
So now we're about to get ready to deliver.
Yes.
Talk to me. How was that preparation? And let's walk into the delivery room.
It was like faith through and through. I think like by the end of it, I was just a regular pregnant woman feeling humongous, ready to just give birth. I'm like, when is this baby coming? So, you know, go into labor naturally. So my contractions picked up. I say naturally because of my daughter. I was induced. So that was one of my prayers, that I could go into labor naturally. So I did. We go to the hospital. And yeah, it was pretty straightforward for the most part. It was pretty straightforward. We deliver, he's born, and immediately, as promised, they, you know, take him and whisk him away. He goes to the NICU right away, and they start running, you know, an EEG to pick up seizures, eye tests, ear tests, I think a full body CT scan. Like, it's just, you know, A to Z. Like, they do. They check everything, and we're sitting there. They do an MRI in his brain again, and we're just, you know, waiting for the results. And you just, you know, this came back, we didn't see anything. This came back, we don't see anything. This came back, no evidence of seizure. This came back, no evidence of seizure. Like, just, you know, it was. We just started getting these good reports. I remember because he was in the NICU, I was in the hospital room. It just so happened that she's actually a maternal fetal medicine doctor, but she was a fellow, so she's doing the ultrasound. She just so happened to be there, and I remember she stopped by my delivery room, and she's like, wide-eyed. She's like, your son is doing this. He's doing this. He has reflexes.
Wow.
He has this. She was like, stories like this give people a lot of hope. And I remember being like, yeah, like that's the God we serve. Like that is the God we serve. It was really cool to see, but we were also like, okay, what happened? What's next? So I don't know if for me, like, we got the MRI results back, and the MRI actually still showed that his brain looks different or at that moment looked different than what a typical brain would look like. And so they're like, yeah, he's doing all this stuff now, which is great, and we're scratching our heads and we're shocked and it's amazing. We still want you to follow up with pediatric neurology. And that's one thing we didn't touch on in the beginning, that I do think is important to share, is like we got a completely different medical team. So like it was very, very important to us. I remember like one of the OBs like not even wanting to, she's like, do you want me to check the heartbeat? And I'm like, yeah, I do want you to check the heartbeat. It was that same weekend that all the initial bad reports had come down, but it was very like negative. I got an amazing doctor, still within the same medical group, but she wasn't like Bible beating or anything like that. I don't even know if she's a believer, but she respected our position and where we were at. And she spoke words of life when she spoke. And that made a big difference for us. So along with keeping that small group, I think and the same with our neurologist. So the neurologist that they initially used, we didn't want to go with him. We found an amazing pediatric neurologist with children's, Carla Harris, who we decided to go with instead. And they were basically like, okay, well, because of this, you still have to follow up with pediatric neurology. And so we had the initial checkup, and she was like, he looks great. Like, he looks great. Let's keep track every 3 months to stay close. And so she looked at him, she said he looked great. We planned on seeing her in three months after that, so like around January. And we go home with our baby.
I was just going to piggyback off that point of the community around. And I was previously talking about what is our responsibility, right? Is our responsibility to, go with the medical reports. But that is one of our responsibilities as a parent, is to be strategic and intentional about who's around, right?
Yeah. So
you can't just, allow, just because it's a assigned medical professional that's around, okay, this is the person, you can pick, right? Say, okay, well, this is not something about this energy that you're giving me is not really vibing with what we're going through right now. So, like you said, each professional, it might not have been the one that's on their team, but we're going to pick and choose who needs to be in our circle right now, just for that reason of staying within a certain level of faith.
And that's one thing that we appreciated was even Dr. Harris, she did say, she's like, listen, yes, I'm a neurologist. She's like, but I believe in God and I'm a mama and we get it wrong sometimes. So I remember Michael maybe you can talk about it, but he basically was helping me. He's an engineer. He's an engineering background, he's in business now, but like, I remember him telling me basically like, we build cars. So I can tell you everything about a car because we put this car together. Like, man. And it was a very helpful conversation for me. He's like, man did not build man. Like, we only know the parts that we can look into, and we go based off of like, I think you said like historical trends or something.
Trends, right? Like medical, you look at what's happened in the past, right? And then you take a trend of what has happened in the past, and then you basically try and forecast the future based on what's happened, right? But that's not saying that I know exactly what's going to happen. Only the people that make it. Like I said, if I build a car or I write code, I can tell you what it's going to do because I'm the one that built it. I'm the one that programmed it. But medical professionals, they can only tell you what's done before, in 90th percentile, whatever. But if you hold on to that, then you're basically separating yourself from what the creator did, right, and what he tell you. So
the actual person that put it together. So that was a really helpful thing early on, that when he broke that down, I was like, yes. So getting a medical team around us that could appreciate and acknowledge the fact that they weren't all knowing, right, and that there were variances, and just because they hadn't seen it before didn't mean it couldn't happen. It was super, super important. So yeah, we bring home our baby and he's healthy. And I will say it was still, like, we still had to be in faith. Because, like, you get home and the enemy's like, and the enemy and the doctor's like, well, look for this, look for this, look for this. Just generally speaking. Because it's also our job as parents not to, I think sometimes, like, well, I'm not going to the doctor. Well, it's okay to acknowledge what they said, but acknowledge it within proper context, right? I'm not taking this as my final word. This is a perspective. This is a view. This is a look. But God has the final perspective, or God has the final look. And so keeping it in context. But yeah, we bring home our son, and he's to this day, he's doing all the things. Like, we brought home a healthy baby boy.
Amen.
And first checkup with the doctor, meeting every milestone. Second, meeting every milestone. We went back for that 3-month check-in with the neurologist. So at 3 months, the first of what was supposed to be, every 3-month check-ins. And she's like, yeah, you guys don't have to come back anymore. Like,
wow.
Enjoy your son. Have a good life. Like, if you need me, I'm here, of course. If you see something wild or, whatever, let me know. But otherwise, have a good life. And, you fast forward to, to now. And I think we were like, okay, well, should we get another MRI? Like, what is the point of, and it's like, well, God did what he said he was going to do. Like, you have a perfectly healthy son. And so.
And like you were saying too, in the process after we brought him home, it was important. Like, we were trying to pick out things too at a certain point.
Which every newborn parent.
He's been here, 24 hours?
Every parent, like, we did it. I remember my daughter who was born, boring pregnancy. I'm watching her breathe at night. Like, I'm like, are you breathing? Are you okay? Did you twitch? Is that your eye? Like, but you can you layer this in. Go ahead.
It was important that, don't associate everything that we see with this whole report that we already had.
Yeah, it's like newborn startle reflex. It's easy. Like, no.
So, still trust him, stand on what he said, even regardless of what you see. Hey, we know what he said.
Right. Yeah. Just being and those things, like I said, every parent does it, but it's really, it's actually, you just do it on, it's like, no way, we gotta just, we gotta did God say what he said, you know what I mean? And still, we go to doctor's appointments, we're like, hey, for the doctor to say, yeah, no, that's regular, that's normal, that's whatever. But yeah, so it's that keeping your mind in the right frame, I would say. But yeah, no, he's been doing his thing, living his best little.
Wow.
What is he? 7 months old now.
Yeah, 7 months old.
Oh my gosh, our daughter is a big sister. She's 2.5, and they squawk back and forth at each other. We were a team.
Yeah.
Through and through. Wow. And I didn't play team sports. Michael teases me for it. I didn't play team sports. I'm one of those listen, I'm gonna just get it done. If I gotta just I'm taking this microphone, we're gonna bring the spirit in. I just I'm just kind of independent in that way, and we had to do this as a team. We had to do it as a team. And yes, I was carrying the baby, but I feel like Michael was carrying me. And
we carried each other. And so, sometimes I would be down, and you'll pick me up, hey, no, and this is what the word says.
Yeah. We would encourage each other, but
it was ebb and flow.
Very much very, very much a rock.
Wow.
And I'm grateful.
Can we see baby Michael?
Yes. Where are the? My mom came to help us with the thank you. I see you.
Hi.
Oh, did we just wake him up? He's like, where are you?
He's look at this smile.
Hi, Duncan. You gonna sit there and sleep you up? You gonna let Daddy go? You gonna let Daddy sleep you up?
Hi.
Okay. Hey, Bubba.
No,
Hey, Duncan. He said hello.
Oh, you see my
Listen, this boy is a.
Listen, I've been telling babies, do not bring that fever over here.
Don't let him go. It's amazing in its season. All right.
Hi,
Can you say hi, Papa? You want to go?
Hi. You
Oh, okay.
No. Oh, okay. It's okay.
Good question.
Hi. Hi. Hey, girl.
Oh, her little bun. Oh, bless her. She's gonna watch this in 10 years and be like, why did you fix my bun?
Hi.
So this is Liana, and this is Michael Allen Robinson Jr. Our babies. You okay, Bubba? Yes, Chunka. Uh-oh, why are you busting?
Oh, well, it's so nice to meet the babies. Hi, Michael. Oh, you just know we're talking about you. Oh, okay. This is so special. I'm just so grateful that you all told your story, and it's going to impact the right people. Whoever God has intended, it's going to impact, and I'm excited. I'm super excited. Your obedience is so powerful. Absolutely. Is there any social media and that you want that you want to give, or YouTube accounts if you want?
Oh. No.
That's okay. That's
really
fine.
No, we don't. I would just say it's easy and it's nice to tell the story. Now that we're on the other side of it, you almost forget. I think sometimes the weight or the heaviness of it. And so I think for people that are going through it themselves, it's obviously just I acknowledge the space. The very difficult space that women are in that have to make that decision, or not even women, just couples in general, have to make. And so, you know, it's really easy, like I said, to kind of tell the story and to thank God for it. But I just want to acknowledge, and just our prayer is that it touches the right people, and that, you know, just my word of advice or my word of encouragement or whatever you would call it would just be like to take whatever the doctors are saying to the Lord in prayer and just at least hear him out on it, to see what he has to say.
Amen.
And just believing that he'll speak back. My prayer is that anybody watching this, that your life will be impacted by it, and that you would have the faith to believe God for whatever miracle it is that, you know, you're trying to believe him for.
Wow. Michael, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the belief concept, right? And we're hoping that this can be what I was looking for in the moment, right? Was trying to search for testimonies just to anchor onto. And, you know, I would hope that more testimonies are available to share, because he's definitely working, right?
Amen.
I know a lot of people don't believe that, you know, people are being raised from the dead today, and these big healings, right? But he's still working. He's still, you know, a healer. So definitely just hold on to testimonies, stay grounded in his word. But yeah, that's really the message is, you know, he's still the same guy, still doing major things. So
Yeah. Well, I want to just thank you all so much for telling your story. I am just super excited for how God rewards your obedience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you all for just staying locked into such a powerful conversation. May this also increase your faith. May you also go to the Lord for all things and desire to release that control to him, because he has the final say no matter what. And we thank you all. We'll see you next time. I am your host, Mikey Latia, and that's all right.